Rosanna Miller, who you may know from TLC's Return to Amish, left the Amish community to find freedom and learn more about herself. But what was she really leaving behind? Many generations of Amish people have lived their lives following strict rules and customs. The curtain is now being pulled back. Come with us as we find out the facts and secrets about Amish life and wedding nights that are rarely told. Amish wedding nights. For the Amish, the wedding night isn't just about following customs, it's also about doing things that are useful. At an Amish wedding, there are often a lot of people, so it's easier for the couple to stay with the bride's parents. For this reason, they can help clean up after the wedding and get ready for the party the next day. On an Amish wedding night, the pair may not be as close as they are on a modern wedding night, but it is still a special time for them. And it gives them a chance to think about their promises and the promise they made to each other. They can also spend time with their family and friends and enjoy their first few days as husband and wife. It is important to know that Amish villages are diverse and that wedding night traditions can be different. Depending on how their family lives and how they do things in their culture, some couples may have more privacy than others. Still, the main ideals of faith, community, and simplicity are always there. The traditions that the Amish do on their wedding night are an interesting look into a society that values faith, community, and simplicity. Modern weddings often focus on beauty and extravagance, but Amish couples mark their union in a more simple but still important way. The Banyan Coley tribe's marriage traditions also show strong cultural values and ties to the society. They offer a unique perspective on marriage traditions. In contrast to most honeymoons, which take couples to fancy places, Amish newlyweds usually spend their first night together at the parents of the bride. This tradition shows how close Amish people are to each other as a group. It's common for the couple's family and friends to stay late, helping to clean up and keep the party going. People know that Amish weddings are simple, and the wedding night is no different. There aren't any fancy ornaments, toasts with champagne, or complicated routines. All eyes are on how committed the couple is to each other and their new life together. Some modern couples might think this is strange, but Amish newlyweds often don't have their own room on their wedding night. Most of the time, they share a room with family members or guests. This practice supports the idea that marriage isn't just about the couple, but also about how they fit in with their community. Even more parties and fun things to do are common the day after the wedding. Guests often get together for a big breakfast or lunch. There may be extra games, singing, or other activities to keep them busy. The couple is expected to take part in these events, which makes their connection with the community stronger. The night of the Amish wedding is the beginning of a new time for the pair. The responsibilities of married life now lie ahead of them, which usually means starting a family and giving back to the community. It's still a big event in their lives, even if the change isn't as big as it is in other countries. Non-Amish people might find the things that the Amish do on their wedding night strange. But they give us a unique look at marriage and community. The outside world still doesn't understand our Amish way of life, except for the weddings. How the Amish live. The Ordnung, which means rules, tells the Amish how to live. These rules may be a little different from one neighborhood to the next, or even from one part of the same neighborhood to another. There is no one group that controls all Amish people. Every neighborhood makes its own decisions, so what's okay in one area might not be okay in another. All baptized members of the group agree on or change the Ordnung before communion, which happens twice a year. It is called Ordnungsgeme in Pennsylvania Dutch and Ordnungsgemein in Standard German when people get together to talk about the Ordnung. The Ordnung talks about many things, such as what to wear, how to use technology properly, religious duties, and how to act around people from other cultures. Women can also have their say in these talks and vote on issues that affect the Ordnung, which is interesting. The most important things for an Amish family are having kids, taking care of them, and staying in touch with family and friends. A lot of them think that having a big family is a gift from God. Most of the time, farming families have more kids because they need boys to do the work. Community is very important to the Amish way of life. A person who works hard is seen as a good person, and new tools that make work easier are seen as bad. An automatic barn cleaner is one example of a machine that has been turned down many times because it gives young farm workers too much free time. People in the Amish community are known for traveling by horse and buggy because they think it makes life more leisurely. Many Amish villages, on the other hand, do let people ride in cars and buses. They can also ride trains. An increasing number of Amish people are riding electric bikes because they are faster than walking or getting a horse and buggy ready. People know the Amish for the simple clothes they wear. Men usually dress the same way, with solid colored shirts, wide-brimmed hats, and jackets. Beards are a sign of manliness and marriage among Amish men, and they are also thought to make them more humble. They aren't allowed to grow mustaches because they believe in pacifism and don't want to be linked with the military. The Ordnung, which is the Amish form of rules, has similar rules for how women should dress. Along with bonnets and aprons, they have to wear dresses that reach the calf and are in soft colors. Since every woman wears one, prayer caps and bonnets are an obvious sign of their faith and help bring people together. The color of a woman's hat shows if she is married or not. Hats are black for single women and white for married women. This difference in color is important because women aren't allowed to wear metal like wedding rings. People think it makes them look good, which could make them proud. Every piece of clothing is made by hand, but how it is fastened varies on whether the person is an Old or New Order Amish. The Old Order Amish don't use buttons very often, if ever, because they think they're too flashy. They'd rather use hooks and eyes or metal snaps to fasten their clothes. The New Order Amish, on the other hand, are a bit more modern and let people add buttons to their clothes to make them look better. People know Amish food for being simple and traditional. Food is an important part of Amish social life. It is given at weddings, potlucks, fundraisers, farewells, and other events. At markets, you can find a lot of Amish foods, like pies, jams, bread mixes, pickled foods, sweets, and canned goods. A number of Amish villages have also opened restaurants for outsiders to enjoy. The Amish eat about the same amount of meat as the average American, but they tend to eat more meat that has been kept. People often mix up Amish food with Pennsylvania Dutch food, which is similar but has some ethnographic and regional differences. There are also differences in what cookbook authors and food historians say about the traditional food practices and how religious culture and celebrations are intertwined in Amish communities. There are a lot of myths about where Shuffley came from, but food anthropologists say that the Pennsylvania Dutch and Amish food traditions are creative and always changing, both over time and between places. They also say that not all Pennsylvania Dutch people are Amish and not all Amish live in Pennsylvania. Dedicated anthropological field studies are mixed with research from literary sources, such as newspaper archives, diaries, and household records, to separate local myths from culinary truths. Some diseases, like dwarfism, Angelman syndrome, and some metabolic disorders are more common in Amish communities. There is also a unique distribution of blood types in these groups. The Amish are made up of different demes, or racially separate groups. Genetic diseases are not more common in the Amish than in the general population. However, because almost all Amish people are descended from a few hundred founders in the 18th century, some recessive conditions are more common. It's called the founder effect. Some of these disorders are very rare or unique, and they can make it much more likely for Amish children to die. The Amish know that getting married outside of their communities can be helpful, but for religious reasons, they only get married within their own groups. A lot of Amish people think that these situations are God's will. They don't agree with using genetic tests to avoid diseases before marriage or to check for genetic diseases in unborn children. Folks make sure that kids who are born with disorders feel welcome and give them tasks they can do. Even so, the Amish are willing to take part in genetic disease studies. Researchers looking into diseases like Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and macular degeneration can learn a lot from their thorough family histories. Studies have shown that the Amish's clean living can help them stay healthy, even though they are more likely to get some genetic diseases. Overall, the Amish have lower cancer rates. Only 37% of Amish adults get cancer from smoking, and 72% get cancer from something else. These rates are lower than the rates found in Ohio adults. It's also interesting that the Amish have lower rates of skin cancer, in spite of the fact that many of them work outside in the sun. For safety, they usually wear hats with wide brims and long arms to cover their skin. The Clinic for Special Children in Strasburg, Pennsylvania, treats genetic problems and has come up with effective treatments for diseases like maple syrup urine disease, which used to be fatal. The clinic is backed by most Amish families. Parents don't have to leave their neighborhood to find good care for their children, so they don't have to worry about being ignored. The DDC Clinic for Special Needs Children in Middlefield, Ohio, is another place that helps kids who have genetic or metabolic diseases. The DDC Clinic helps Amish and non-Amish children and their families with treatment, research, and instruction. People's Helpers is a network of mental health caregivers set up by the Amish to help families with mental health problems and help them find trained counselors. Self-harm rates are about half of what they are in the general population among Amish people. Most of the time, Old Order Amish don't have private health insurance. In the mid-1990s, some American hospitals started outreach programs just for the Amish to help them. In some Amish communities, the church asks its members to give money to help pay for other people's hospital bills. People from other places often think that the Amish don't use any current technology, but that's not really the case. Since Amish people don't have health insurance and pay for services up front, they do use modern medicine, such as giving birth in hospitals and other advanced treatments. To save money, a lot of Amish people go to Mexico for surgeries and medical care that isn't pressing. Not because they don't know how to use birth control, but because of their views and the fact that having a lot of kids is useful in farming communities. Amish families tend to have a lot of kids. By looking at how many kids are in different groups, it's clear that some Amish use some kind of family planning, even though they don't talk about it much. Family sizes tend to grow when the group is more conservative. People in a group who are more conservative tend to have more children. In some places, women whose health could be at risk during childbirth can get birth control. The Amish don't agree with abortion or other practices that go against their beliefs and values, such as genetics, racism, and stem cell research. The Amish have had to deal with problems from the modern world over time. They have problems with things like taxes, schools, and the police, and sometimes people are mean and discriminatory to them. Today's way of life is becoming more and more different from that of the Amish. This has sometimes made their neighbors mean and discriminatory, with some even throwing rocks or other things at Amish horse-drawn wagons on the roads. The Amish don't usually send their kids to school after 8th grade because they think that the basic lessons taught up to that point are enough to prepare them for life as an Amish. Not many Amish go to high school or college. The Amish run their own schools in many places. These schools are usually one-room schoolhouses with teachers who are young Amish women who are not married. On May 19, 1972, 5 people were fined $5 each for not sending their 14- and 15-year-old children to high school. The people who got the fines were from the Old Order Amish, Wallace Miller, Aiden Utsi, and the conservative Amish Mennonite Church. It was rejected by the Wisconsin Supreme Court in the case of Wisconsin versus Yoder in 1972. And the U.S. This ruling was upheld by the Supreme Court, which said that the benefits of universal education were not strong enough to override the First Amendment's protections for free speech. There are sales and land taxes that the Amish have to pay. Since they don't own cars very often, they don't have to pay fees to register them or spend money on gas for their cars very often. The Amish usually don't like the idea of Social Security benefits and don't believe in insurance because it goes against their beliefs and customs. Because of this, the U.S. Internal Revenue Service agreed with them in 1961 that they did not have to pay taxes connected to Social Security. This policy was written down as law in 1965. People who are self-employed in some groups do not pay into or get benefits from the U.S. Social Security system. This exemption is for a religious group that strongly disagrees with taking any private or state insurance benefits, makes sure its dependent members can afford to live, and has had this exemption since December 31. In 1982, the U.S. Supreme Court made it clear that Amish businesses are not exempt. But only for Amish people who work for themselves. To understand Amish customs, it's helpful to know that they don't believe in chakmut, which means pride, arrogance, or haughtiness, and they put a lot of value on damut, which means humility, and gelassenheit, which means calmness, composure, or placidity and is often translated as submission or letting go. Another way to think about laziness is as a reluctance to be direct, promote oneself, or move forward. The Amish are ready to do what Jesus wants, as shown by their community standards. This is very different from American society as a whole, which values independence a lot. Because they didn't believe in being independent, the Amish turned down tools that would have saved them time and made them less dependent on their community. Modern conveniences like electricity may cause people to compete for status markers, and photos may make people feel better about their own appearance. Reading Romans 12 verse 2 says that you should not be like everyone else, which means that using power lines would go against what the Bible says. Being a part of the Amish church starts with baptism, which most people do between the ages of 16 and 23. Anyone who wants to get married in the Amish community has to go through this baptism. After being baptized, a person can only marry someone else who shares their faith. 20 to 40 families make up each church district. Every other Sunday, prayer services are held at a member's home or barn. The district is run by a bishop and a number of ministers and deacons who are chosen by vote and cleromancy, which is another word for drawing lots. The ordinum are the church's rules. They are a little different in each area, and all church members go over them twice a year. The Lord's Supper can only happen if everyone in the church agrees to it. There are many rules for daily life in the ordinum that all members must follow. For example, people are not allowed to use power lines, phones, or cars, as well as rules about what to wear. As current Anabaptists, Amish church members don't fight back and don't serve in the military. They value living in the country, working hard, being humble, and being Galatian tall. They also try to live by what they think is God's word. Folks who don't follow these rules and can't be swayed to do so could be kicked out of the group and avoided. Different groups have different ways of shunning. This means that about 85% of Amish teens choose to be baptized and join the church. Rumspringa, which means running around in Pennsylvania German, is a stage that some teens go through. During this time, behaviors that would get an adult rejected after baptism might be okay to some extent. The fact that Rosanna left the Amish society. Rosanna Miller's first scene on Return to Amish was in the 6th season, which aired in 2021. The Old Order Amish way of life was very important to her family. Her parents are very committed to keeping the ideals of their community alive. Because they had strong values, they thought Rosanna would do what they did. Rosanna, on the other hand, wants to do well on her own, without anyone else's help, and being a part of her community makes that harder for her. So, she decides to live a life without any bias or ideas she already has. Her decision to be on the show shows that she wants to be more independent and try new things. Rosanna wants to make her own rules for living. That's a big reason she left her town. She thought about leaving the Amish way of life at that time, so she went to Florida to see what life was like outside the small community she had grown up in. She wanted to start a new life in English-speaking countries, but she ended up meeting Johnny, who was still Amish, and he wasn't sure if he wanted to leave. Johnny and Rosanna started dating after season 6 was over. He was on season 7 of the show, which played earlier this year. Their story was mostly about how they felt about leaving the Amish way of life. After much thought, Johnny and Rosanna chose to leave. They are now living a more modern life. On March 20, 2022, they had a girl named Clara. Rosanna said that they were going to raise her in the English world. These days, the couple doesn't dress like the Amish, but Rosanna said she still talks to her family in Pennsylvania. The Amish community didn't like Rosanna Miller and Johnny Detweiler's relationship. They didn't like that they were close before they got married and that Rosanna was pregnant, which is against the Irish way of life. But how did the Amish come to be? You will be shocked by the story behind it. How the Amish folks got together. There are traditional Anabaptist Christian church communities in the United States called the Amish. They have roots in Switzerland and Alsace. Some scholars have called the Amish an ethno-religious group, which means they have parts of both an ethnicity and a Christian denomination. This is because they keep their views to themselves and don't interact with other people. Old Order Mennonites and Conservative Mennonites are linked to the Amish. Those things are also a part of Anabaptist Christianity. People know them for living a simple life, wearing simple clothes, being devoted to Christian peace, and not wanting to use many modern technologies. This is to make sure that family time isn't interrupted and to support talking to people in person as much as possible, while also trying to become self-sufficient. Living in the country, working hard, being humble, and doing what God wants are very important to the Amish. In 1693, a group of Swiss and Alsatian Mennonite Anabaptists, led by Jacob Amann, split up. This was the start of the Amish Church. The people who decided to follow Amann were called Amish. The Amish split into two groups at the end of the 1800s, the Old Order Amish and the Amish Mennonites. Some Amish groups, like the Old Order Amish, still do many things the way they always have, while the Amish Mennonites do use cars. These days, most people who talk about Amish mean the Old Order Amish. The New Order Amish and the Beachy Amish are two other groups of Amish. Simple clothes are worn by all of these groups, and they follow the rules set out in their church's Ordnung. Both the Old Order and the New Order Amish hold meetings in German. They also speak Pennsylvania Dutch and get around in buggies. The Beachy Amish, on the other hand, use modern technology like cars and hold services in the language of their town. There are Sunday schools for both the New Order Amish and the Beachy Amish, and they both celebrate the birth of a child. There were many Amish and Mennonites who came to Pennsylvania in the early 1700s. The Old Order Amish, the New Order Amish, and the Old Beachy Amish all speak Pennsylvania Dutch. The Swiss Amish in Indiana, on the other hand, speak Alemannic styles. The number of Amish people has grown quickly. There are now more than 400,000 of them, with over 395,000 Old Order Amish living in the US and over 6,000 in Canada as of 2024. The goal of Amish church groups is to stay away from people who are not Amish. The Amish usually call people who aren't Amish English, and people who come from outside the Amish community are generally called worldly. Adult baptism is the first step in becoming a member of the Amish church. This usually takes place between the ages of 16 and 23. There are 20 to 40 families in each church district. Old Order and New Order Amish worship services happen every other Sunday in a member's home or barn, while Beachy Amish services happen every Sunday in churches. The church's rules, called the Ordnung, are a little different in each area, and everyone in the church goes over them twice a year. There is an Ordnung that everyone must follow, which has many rules about how the Old Order Amish should live their daily lives. For example, they can't use power lines, phones, or cars, and they have to follow rules about what they should wear. An important part of life is church and family ties. Most of the time, the Old Order Amish run their own one-room schools and stop going to school after 8th grade. A lot of Amish people don't buy private insurance or sign up for Social Security. Members of the Amish church, who are modern Anabaptists, believe in nonviolence and don't serve in the military. In 1710, people who didn't like Jacob Amon, an Anabaptist leader, used the word Amish as a shandanem, which means a word of shame. In the 1600s, there was an unofficial split among the Swiss Brethren, separating them into Oberlanders, who live in the hills, and Emmentaler, who come from the Emmental area. There was a more extreme group called the Oberlanders. Because of their love for what they did, they moved to more remote places. After this, Swiss Anabaptism went in two different ways, mostly because people didn't agree on how to treat believers who had fallen away. The Emmentalers, who were sometimes called Riestians after their bishop Hans Riest, who was a very important leader among them, thought that believers who had turned away from God should only be kept from communion and not from normal meals. The Amish, on the other hand, thought that people who were not allowed should be avoided even when they were eating together. It was the Riestian view that eventually made the Swiss Mennonite Conference possible. Many things are the same between the Amish and strict Mennonites from southern Germany and Switzerland. This is because they both come from the same background. A lot of people who leave the Amish community join other strict Mennonite groups. In the early 1700s, the Amish began coming to Pennsylvania because they thought it was a good place where they would not be persecuted for their religion and where they could get good deals on land. Moving here was part of a larger movement from the Palatinate and close places. About 500 Amish people came to North America between 1717 and 1750. Most of them settled in what is now Berks County, Pennsylvania. But they later moved because of problems with the land and worries about safety because of the French and Indian War. There were a lot of them in Lancaster County. Then, around the middle of the 1800s, a second group of about 1,500 Amish came and mostly settled in Ohio, Illinois, Iowa, and southern Ontario. Most of these later newcomers didn't join the Old Order Amish. Instead, they joined groups that were more open to new ideas. It is hard to guess how many Amish live in a country because most of them don't get baptized until they are 18 or older, and children aren't counted in local group counts. In North America, the number of Amish people rose by 84% from 1992 to 2008. That's 3.6% a year. They built 184 new towns and grew into 6 new states during this time. About 165,620 Old Order Amish lived in the U.S. in 2000, and 73,609 of them went to church. One of the groups that is growing the fastest around the world is the Amish, having 5.3 children per family on average in the 2010s compared to 7.7 children per family in the 1970s. Some religious groups, like the Amish, changed how they recorded their members in 2010 so that it was more in line with the rules set by the Association of Statisticians of American Religious Bodies. When you count all Amish followers, not just the Old Order Amish, there were 241,000 Amish people in 28 U.S. states in 2010. The number of Amish followers rose from 300,000 in 2015 to 401,000 by 2024, an increase of 100,000 in just 9 years. The number of villages rose from 501 to 675 during this time. That's an increase of 35%. There are now 3,039 areas instead of 2,193 in the past. Over 98% of Amish people live in the United States, making it their home country. As of 2024, there are 32 states in the U.S. with Old Order towns. There were 394,000 Amish people living in the country as a whole. 17,445 more people than in June 2023, or 4.6% more than the year before. In June 2024, Pennsylvania had the most Amish people. Ohio and Indiana came in second and third, respectively. Lancaster County in southeastern Pennsylvania, Holmes County and nearby areas in northeastern Ohio, and Elkhart and LaGrange counties in northeastern Indiana are home to the biggest Amish communities as